Hello and welcome back to Not Overthinking. Taim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I just got back from a little trip to Turkey.
Oh, how was it?
Went for 4 days-ish with some lads. Yeah, it was pretty solid. I was working for the first couple of days, did some sightseeing yesterday, and then just came back today. So yeah, quite a short trip, mostly work-focused, but yeah, nice to hang out with some lads.
Could you have done the hanging out with the lads anywhere, like in the UK?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I personally didn't do too much Turkey-specific stuff. I think the rest of them did, because they were doing a lot more sightseeing because they weren't working for the first 2 days.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, no, it was good. Solid, pretty solid.
Yeah, I think even then it is nice to go abroad just for a bit of a...
Yeah, the distance is nice.
Yeah.
I think the distance is nice, but like transit is kind of annoying, like to from the airport, etc., etc. Stansted Airport is also just quite grim, to be honest. I had to get like a COVID test on arrival, so like walking out in the rain to some little testing center at Stansted Airport. So yeah, it's not too interesting. But yeah, it was a solid trip. But I think given that I didn't do too much Turkey-specific stuff, I would have probably preferred some kind of naturey environment rather than city. So we were in Istanbul. But yeah, I guess for the rest of the lads, they wanted to go to Turkey. And if I wasn't working for the first couple of days, I would have done a lot more Turkey stuff.
Do you enjoy the whole sightseeing things?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. But yeah, it depends on the sites, you know.
What do you like about it?
I mean, if the site is something that I find interesting. So, for example, Turkey has like a bunch of really old, really big, fancy mosques. I actually didn't end up. We went to like one mosque. Well, I went to like one mosque. I was planning to go to some more today, but then I switched to an earlier flight. But actually, interestingly, yesterday, a couple of the groups, there were 6 of us in total, a couple of people had like a really packed itinerary of like, oh, we should do this and this and this and this. And then the rest of us were just kind of like, we're going to go to the spa at this nice hotel and we're just going to get a massage and just chill out until dinner. And so, yeah, I think we were talking about how sort of liberating it was to kind of not have that pressure of having to do sightseeing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the feeling of having a personal trainer session and then being able to cancel it.
Yeah, you've talked about this as like the epitome of life.
Yeah, it's like... what's the macro point here? The macro point is something that you feel you're supposed to do, and then you realize that actually you have more autonomy and freedom. That you are a sovereign individual.
Yeah, you can see your chains once and for all, and you can let go of them.
You can choose to break the chains.
Yeah, so that was nice.
So did 4 of you get the spa and the other 2 do sightseeing?
Yeah, the others did some sightseeing.
And was there a bit of a consensus afterwards on who had the more fun?
No, not at all. No, we all kind of caught up on our experiences. Yeah, I think the sightseeing people enjoyed the sightseeing and they were keen on that. The rest of us enjoyed chilling in a spa and getting some massages and just sitting and sipping some drinks.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a solid trip. How's your past week been?
It's been good. I had laser eye surgery on Wednesday.
That's huge.
So now these glasses are actually fake. I don't need them. Who'd have thunk it? They do have a blue light blocking thingy on them, but they're also just like a bit grim. Like within 3 days, they've gotten like a bit grimy. And so now when I wear them compared to when I don't wear them, like the world is just clearer when I don't wear them. And this is a thing about wearing glasses, that when you are wearing glasses, you acclimatize to the world being a bit unclean. Yeah. And then you take them off and then you can see for the first time and you can appreciate like lights and stuff in your periphery for the first time ever.
Yeah, because I guess in my periphery, I can see there's the outline of the frames and you just learn to tune it out, but it's there.
Yeah. So
mental.
Pretty solid experience overall.
What made you decide to bite the bullet?
So about 2 years ago, an ophthalmologist messaged me on Instagram saying he thought about laser eye surgery, and I said, "Yeah, tell me more." And he said, "Well, you can just come in to the clinic for a consultation, but you need to have had a stable prescription for 2 years in your glasses." And I thought, oh, I can't be asked to dig my prescription up. I'll put it off. Yeah. And then 2 years later, I heard from multiple people who had laser eye surgery that it was a life-changing thing. And a few of the people who I knew in real life or friends of friends had actually had it through the same guy. His name is Ramesh, based at OCL Vision. Okay. And I was like, oh, this guy is the guy who messaged me 2 years ago on Instagram.
Oh, no way.
Then I replied back to him 2 years later, like, hey, source for the delay. Yeah. Is this offer still on the table?
Sorry, fell asleep.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, sure. So booked me in with the consultation. So that happened a few months ago. And then we went to Pakistan. So he was like, we should probably do the operation after you come back because we want to be able to follow you up.
Yeah. So I remember over the past few weeks, you were kind of umming and ahhing and you were like tweeting about, guys, should I get it? I'm having cold feet. So what was that whole process about?
Yeah. So I mentioned it in like a YouTube community post or something that I was potentially thinking about it. And there was a barrage of comments being like, don't do it. It's like really bad. I had it done and it was really bad and my eyes have never been the same since. And
Really?
a few horror stories.
So what's like the TLDR on like the risks and the probabilities?
I don't know.
Nice.
Tiago, our mutual friend, tweeted, risks are less than the risk of crossing the road.
Okay.
And when I spoke to the surgeon, he was like, look, yes, there are risks to everything, but broadly those risks are fairly small.
Yeah.
Maybe like a 1% risk of infection, but you get prophylactic antibiotic drops to put in your eyes to help mitigate that.
Yeah.
And in maybe 10% of cases, you actually have to do a second surgery because the first round hasn't fully corrected your vision or something like that. But broadly, the impression I got, and I didn't really do much reading on this, but the impression I got was that I take I do far more risky things every day in my life.
Okay,
and this is now a relatively safe thing.
Yeah.
One of my major concerns was I'd heard that 10 years down the line, you then have a problem with dry eyes and you have to put eye drops in.
Yeah.
And the surgeon guy was like, yeah, this was a problem like 20 years ago, but this, technology has evolved since then.
Yeah.
The first laser eye thingy was done, I think, in 1991. It's like 30 years ago.
Whoa. Okay.
And it was like, if you can imagine how much your smartphone has improved since 1991, like there have been a lot of improvements. The whole process is mostly automated in that you get this machine which scans your eyes and then that's directly connected to the laser. And so all of the lasering is done by a machine. I think what the surgeon does is retract the cornea. They make a little cut in the front of your eye, the cornea.
Yeah.
Lift it up a bit. Then the machine goes to work and within about 15 seconds, your vision and astigmatism is corrected for.
What?
And then they put the cornea flap back. And then that's it. It heals within a few days.
What? So it's like a 1 minute operation?
It was literally like 30 seconds of a little bit of discomfort when there's a bit of pressure. And
Wait, can you feel your cornea being cut open?
No. I mean, because they put anesthetic drops, so you can't feel anything that's going on. But there was like 30 seconds of a bit of pressure, and that's when they cut the cornea open.
Oh, okay.
And then it was like 15 seconds of zzz, 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 zzz.
Can you see like red like shooting into your eye?
You can't, but apparently the people, the like outsiders can see it.
Really?
So we've got it all on camera. I haven't seen the footage yet because we're going to do a video about the experience. And all the people in the room were like, yeah, that looks really cool.
Yeah.
And so at that point, like you're just looking up in a green blinking light and that like light is tracking the position of your eyeball and correcting for any micro movements. And if it senses that your eyeball has moved off of where off of where it should be, it immediately cuts the laser. So there's zero risk of it like hitting not to the place it should do.
Yeah.
But there is a weird smell of sizzling.
Really? The smell?
Yeah, it's a smell that you get when you're in surgery and they use the diathermy, which like sizzles flesh, that kind of smell. And so,
smell of like burning flesh.
Yeah, the smell of burning flesh. So I commented while it was happening, I think I can smell the burning. And he was like, yeah, people say that, but it's actually not burning. What you're smelling is the carbon being released from like the molecules splitting or
sounds like burning, mate. What you're smelling is the intense heat.
And he said there is actually no thermal process happening. Okay. Apparently. Okay. And I was like, all right, cool. And by the time we'd finished that conversation, it was over. So yeah, relatively. And it was weird because like just before I lay down on the table, he was like, okay, I want you to note the time on that clock and note that you probably can't see the time on that clock.
Oh, yeah.
And then afterwards he was like, okay, look at the clock. And I was like, oh my effing God. I could suddenly see without my glasses. And I was like, whoa. Mental. So yeah.
Are you like used to it now? Or do you still wake up and you're like, whoa, I can just see?
Yeah, no, for the last few nights I've woken up thinking, whoa, for the first 2 nights you have to wear these eye shields.
Yeah.
You have to tape them to your eyes to stop you from like rubbing your eyes and stuff because it's still quite like fragile. But now I kind of take for granted that I can see. And okay. I've got these glasses. I think initially I got the glasses because it was like, I think I look better with glasses, but the more I see myself in the mirror, the more I'm like, I actually look fine. Yeah. So yeah.
Mate, solid experience stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's life-changing, but yeah.
Really? Well, I guess you don't have to wear glasses. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, wearing glasses, not wearing glasses wasn't a huge deal for me. The thing that sold me on it, I was getting cold feet. And then Jamie, one of our team members, said that, look, imagine if you had an accident. You'd be completely screwed if you don't have your glasses or if your glasses fell off. I was like, yeah, that's very true. So he was like, so even for that, like in that unlikely event that you have some sort of accident, you want to be able to see. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds plausible.
And I guess water stuff, I know, to be honest, I guess water stuff does become a lot easier, right?
Yeah, it would be nice not having to wear like prescription swimming goggles. It would be nice to not have to get special ski goggles that are fit glasses.
Yeah.
To be able to do, I guess, I mean, water sports, you wear goggles anyway. And if you have prescription, it's not too bad. But being able to wear sunglasses that don't have prescription on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like all these things are being able to play Oculus without having to account for the glasses.
Right.
If I ever bother playing the Oculus. There's all these like theoretical things which I haven't yet taken advantage of. But
so do you think glasses people should do it? glasses havers?
I don't know. I don't know yet. It's still only been a few days, so my vision hasn't fully recovered. It's still like there's a bit of sort of soft focus.
How much did it set you back?
In terms of money?
Yeah.
I think the RRP is 4K, but I got a 50% influencer discount.
Nice. 4K for total.
Yeah, so it's very reasonably priced. Given that, like, if you have a bad prescription like mine, every time I get glasses, it costs about 600 quid.
What?
For the frames plus the thinning of the lens.
Genuinely?
Yeah, like when you have -7, you have to pay like 400 quid to get thinned out lenses to fit in glasses.
Mate, that's ridiculous.
And then obviously I get upsold on the blue light filter, and the red light filter, and the
slap it all on.
the eco filter, all the other sourced from sustainable metal. All right then.
Fine.
So it will be ROI positive within about 3 years of not buying glasses.
That's pretty cool.
Theoretically, but I think in a few months I'd probably be like, yeah, this is cool. I think when I get to the point where I do something where I think, okay, the fact that I'm not wearing glasses right now makes this so much better, then that will be when I really appreciate it.
Yeah, mate, that's huge.
That's been me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, imagine the first laser eye surgery, like 30 years ago or whatever. You can just like restore someone's sight.
Yeah.
It's just like a miracle.
Imagine how brave that first patient must be.
Yeah, mate, that's
like, you know what? gonna take a chance on this unproven surgery.
That's awesome, man.
So yeah, I see things now.
Are you continuing to thrive? It's last week when we chatted, you said you were thriving.
Yeah. Am I continuing to thrive? Yeah, I am continuing to thrive.
Nice.
Life is great. Going to an Ed Sheeran concert tomorrow evening.
Really?
Yeah.
Indoors?
It's fun. Indoor concert, 2,000 people only, compared to the 80,000 that would be in an outdoor arena. In a church, it's like his Merry Christmas concert. So hopefully Elton John will make a guest appearance and sing the absolute banger of a song.
That'll be great. Is that in London?
That's in London. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to this... have you come across a restaurant called Dans le Noir?
No.
It means in the night.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like a blind restaurant where apparently the waiters and stuff are blind, and it's also in pitch darkness. So you're dining in, but you can't see the food that you're eating.
Oh, really?
And so, they give you this like tasting menu where you end up eating mystery food. And then it's just kind of an experience.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So a few exciting things to look forward to.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you? Are you thriving?
I say I'm thriving a bit less because my gym routine got like significantly disrupted last week. I think by disrupted, I mean I cancelled a session.
Best feeling ever.
Yeah, I definitely felt good at the time. And then actually I'm not going to have a session tomorrow because I'm waiting for a negative COVID test result. And then I should have a session on Tuesday. So I was thinking actually in Turkey as well. Because I do like the flexibility of just being able to go to random places, living between London and St. Albans, et cetera, et cetera. I think I just need to have my own workout routine that I just do regardless of just some body weight exercises.
Yeah.
That I just, 10, 15 minutes that I just do every day regardless of where I am, who I'm with.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
And then it just sets you up.
I mean, there's a gym here. There's a gym in your flat.
Yeah, there is.
These are all very reasonable things.
Yeah. I've used your gym before. Yeah,
I've also been researching jump ropes.
Oh yeah,
because I was doing a bit of skipping with my personal trainer a couple of weeks ago.
You've been skipping the session.
Yes. And we tried weighted jump rope exercises.
Weighted?
Yeah, you put weights in it.
Okay.
In the thing, so only by half a pound or something, but it really makes it harder. So then obviously I googled kind of best jump rope, and there's this company some direct to consumer company that for 250 quid that sells you the ultimate jump rope package when you could buy a £5 one.
Does that work your forearms and stuff?
I don't know. Apparently it works all the things.
Does it help you make gains, or is it more of I always thought roping was more of a cardio thing.
If you have the right setting, if you have the appropriate weight on the thing, it does actually help you make gains. Apparently.
Okay.
But I haven't looked into this too much. But I was thinking that maybe it would be a good part of my everyday carry to just carry a jump rope around.
How much of that is because of the idea of
No, it's mostly mostly the idea. It's there was one Casey Neistat video that I watched where he said that he just carries these exercise bands around with him because they weigh nothing and they pack down into nothing. And so when he's at the airport or something, he's got footage of himself doing bicep curls and stuff with these bands.
Okay.
And the idea of that seemed super cool. Realistically, I don't know. I probably wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I think I find the idea appealing of having a couple of little things that you can carry in your suitcase or your backpack, so that no matter where you are in the world, or you can just do your thing. Like how Tim Ferriss always carries his athletic
sardines
greens
and stuff.
Sardines?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was athletic greens was his thing.
Oh yeah, no, it is. But it's also sardines that he has every morning for breakfast or something.
Is that for protein? Or?
I think it's just at one point used to be his breakfast for a few years, and he would just carry them around with him even when traveling.
Yeah, because I think right now my life, as I've said before, my life is fairly flexible, a bit, fairly moving from place to place. And that has its benefits, but I think I can cut down on its negatives if I just had routines for things that I could just do anywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, you could do body weight stuff very easily.
I could. It's just a habit thing. Like there was a few months ago, I was in the, maybe like 3-4 months ago, I was in the routine of like doing a set of pull-ups and a set of push-ups every single day. And like, it takes almost no time at all. It's a great little break from whatever you're doing. And yeah, I'm just continually surprised at like how once you're out of the habit, I don't know what makes it so difficult to just get back into it. I think actually because for the first couple of days, when you're in the routine of like doing pull-ups every day, doing push-ups every day, like it feels really good. You feel like you can do quite a lot. And then, when you're out of the habit, that, oh man, at my peak, I could do like 15 pull-ups or something. And then you're like struggling to do 8, 9. And like, it kind of hurts in like not a nice way because like you've been out of it. So I think, yeah, continually surprised at that.
That makes sense. I think one thing that I found helpful is tracking my workouts on Apple Notes, my second brain of choice.
Yeah.
So I just have a folder called gym, and within that folder I just have each different exercise. But like, so for example, like tricep pull down machine or chest press machine or chest press normal or dumbbell chest press. And so wherever I am, whether I'm in kind of the local gym or the gym in here, I can just be like, oh, okay, that's a tricep pull down machine. Fine. Let's see what I did last time and let's try and do a little bit more.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
And so that gives me a very easy default to do.
Yeah.
Even when I'm just having a token session, at least I'm doing some level of progressive overloading.
Yeah.
And I think if I were doing body weight stuff or jump rope stuff or anything, then, last time I did, I don't know, 30 seconds of plank. Let's do 35. Let's do 40. Like just keeping that up over time.
Yeah.
And not being too fussed about the intensity of any individual session, but more about the consistency over the long term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I'll do some body weight stuff tonight.
Nice.
Yeah.
I could do it tomorrow morning.
I'll probably hit the gym tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Like I was supposed to if I didn't went for my COVID test. One thing I've been thinking about recently is the ego.
The ego.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you look at any sort of vaguely old tradition, religions or old traditions, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of focus on the ego and kind of suppressing it. I mean, you've read a lot of sort of modern day like life wisdom guru type stuff.
Like Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday.
Ego, oh, really? Damn, okay. They've got it covered. Yeah.
But he talks about stoicism. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly.
Old tradition.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that the more I think about it, just like so much, a lot of things which are almost like presented as like positives nowadays are really just kind of the ego acting out,
Okay, what do you mean?
I'm going to give examples of things. I'm not trying to suggest that certain reactions to things are bad or that we shouldn't try and change things, etc., etc. I'm just trying to suggest that there is also ego at play, which isn't really, noticed very often or kind of brought to the center and isn't really like part of the discourse at all. So for example, I think like...
I'm going to ask you for a definition of ego, but I want you to give the example first so it kind of makes...
yeah, here's an example. Okay, yeah. So I think, there's often sort of situations where you're in kind of like a group setting or something, and let's say, I don't know, let's say there's some like singing involved, or like someone, is good at playing an instrument, there's that kind of setting. And, someone might say something like, oh yeah, I think some people kind of have the view of like, oh, I don't like doing things that I'm not good at kind of thing. Oh, I'm really bad at singing. I'm not going to do that. Or like, oh, no, I'm not very good at the piano. With that kind of vibe. It's almost presented as like humility in a way. Sorry?
Someone being bad at something and not...
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's presented as anything in particular. But I think that's an example of just like I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I might be off base.
A fear of looking foolish.
Yeah, just like an overactive ego of like worrying too much, sort of
worrying about the way that others are perceiving you, and
worrying about sort of kind of your reputation in this kind of way, and kind of caring a lot about that and stuff like that.
So how are you defining ego here?
Sorry,
what does ego mean in this context?
What do I mean by ego? And we can actually just get a definition.
Like sense of our own self.
Yeah, it's a sense of self in a very like. Let's just find a nice definition, actually. That's so funny.
Why are you on twitter.com?
I'm not. It's funny. When you type in ego, you get, apparently there's a shop called Ego. And so you get pictures of like shoes. Halfway down the page, you get the Wikipedia. There's a Mediterranean pub. All right. So a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
So you feel that when people are, oh, I don't want to sing because I'm bad at singing, that is a fear of being thought foolish, which is basically an ego-related thing.
Yeah.
And if someone had less of a
that's
big
like one
fragile ego, then they would be open to being thought foolish by others.
If someone what?
If someone had less of an ego, in inverted commas.
Yeah. So I think that's one. I think that's one thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Another example is. Where else has come up? I feel like over the past few weeks, I've noticed a bunch of situations where it's come up.
I don't want to record a video because my hair doesn't look nice. I don't want to record a podcast because, like, you know, is this the sort of stuff you're getting at?
That's one like set of examples. Yeah, I find that there's just a lot of psychic chatter in my head sometimes, which is just like completely pointless.
Okay.
Which I think is also just ego. Yeah, I mean, it's things like sort of fantasizing about the future. Sort of, do you know what I mean? Do you know the psychic chatter that I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, but I want you to elaborate on it. So what do you mean by fantasizing about the future?
Yeah, just thinking of like future scenarios, just like complete, you know,
like good ones or bad ones, or
yeah, I guess like good ones. Or, for example, man, it's hard to come up with examples, you know.
So
psychic chatter that's focused on the self and just like self-importance.
Mate, this is exactly the stuff I'm reading about at the moment, because I'm on a big thing of reading all these spirituality books.
Yeah,
which are all about like helping you get over the whole psychic chatter thing.
Yeah,
and appreciating kind of the ego is like a thing. And like shouldn't be a thing, and all this stuff. So
yeah, I'm trying to think, how does it kind of manifest in my own life?
Yeah, how is this currently manifesting in you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, okay, when do I feel like, when do I notice my own ego? Yeah, I think there's definitely like moments of psychic chatter, of like feelings of self-importance.
Okay, feelings
just
of self-importance.
Like
what do you mean?
Why don't you read some highlights in the meantime? So what book is this?
There are a few books I'm reading at the moment that are around this sort of vibe. This one is it's called Atma Moon, but the path to achieving the bliss of the Himalayan Swamis.
Love it.
By Kapil Gupta.
Okay.
It's famously wrecked me on Twitter.
Wait, have we talked about that on the pod?
I'm not sure we have. Yeah, I mean, for context, there's this guy called Kapil Gupta who is some like philosopher dude. Or like, and some sort of guru in the true sense of the word. And he wrote a book called A Master's Secret Whisperers and this book called Atma Moon. And a few weeks ago I tweeted that I started reading A Master's Secret Whisperers after a friend recommended it.
Yeah.
And I tagged him in the tweet.
Yeah.
Saying like, here we go lads, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he replied saying, you are probably not ready for this book yet. No, he didn't even say yet. He said, you are probably not ready for this book. Ready with a capital R. I was like, damn. I got ratioed hard on that one.
Oh, man. So he's like Naval's guru, right?
He's like Naval's guru, yeah. So Atma Moon is his first book, and then A Master's Secret Whisperers is the second one. A Master's Secret Whisperers is interesting. It's written in the style of the courage to be disliked.
Oh, no.
So it's a conversation between master and student.
Yeah, what do they say about ego? Self.
I mean, so that's two of them. The one that's more famous is The Power of Now, which is all about like living in the present moment and things like that. Let me see if that has any
Yeah, on the psychic chatter front, I remember in the sort of seminal Naval podcast on Farnham Street in like 2017 and 2018 or whatever. I remember Naval talked about this around like, when he's like brushing his teeth, you know, he's either like replaying stuff in the past or like thinking about future scenarios, and there's all this just like pointless psychic chatter in his head. That's kind of what I was getting at.
This is from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
I've heard this chap.
Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it, so it is considered normal.
Yeah.
This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being with a capital B. It also creates a false mind-made self.
The false
that
mind-made
casts
self,
a shadow of fear and suffering. We will look at all that in more detail later.
Yeah, false mind-made self is great.
The philosopher Descartes believed that he had found the most fundamental truth when he made his famous statement, I think, therefore I am. He had in fact given expression to the most basic error, to equate thinking with being, and identity with thinking. The compulsive thinker, which means almost everyone, lives in a state of apparent separateness in an insanely complex world of continuous problems and conflict, a world that reflects the ever-increasing fragmentation of the mind. Enlightenment is a state of wholeness, of being, quote, at one, and therefore at peace, at one with life in its manifested aspect, the world as well as the deeper self, and life unmanifested at one with being. Enlightenment is not only the end of suffering and of continuous conflict within and without, but also the end of the dreadful enslavement to incessant thinking. What an incredible liberation this is.
Yeah.
Thinking has become a disease.
Yes, a literal mind virus. The mind virus.
Disease happens when things get out of balance. For example, there is nothing wrong with cells dividing and multiplying in the body, but when this process continues in disregard of the total organism, cells proliferate and we have disease. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, it's not so much that you use your mind wrongly. You usually don't use it at all. It uses you. This is the disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion. The instrument has taken you over.
Love it.
Oh, and then there's a bit that I highlighted. There's a bit more back and forth. You mean stop thinking altogether? No, I can't, except maybe for a moment or two. This is the power of now is also written in this sort of conversational fashion, somewhat. And then Tolly replies, and then the mind is using you. You are unconsciously identified with it, so you don't even know that you're its slave. It's almost as if you were possessed without knowing it. And so you take the possessing entity to be yourself. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the possessing entity, the thinker. Knowing this enables you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought, that thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. You begin to awaken.
Yeah. Why? So I'm curious why you've started getting into it, because I've also started. I mean, you hear about this kind of stuff just like forever, and probably up until like a year or two ago, I would have. I like to think I wouldn't have dismissed it, but it wouldn't have compelled me. But now it compels me.
So what our guru, Dr. Gupta, says is that this sort of truth with a capital T is only available to those who are sincerely with a capital S, seeking with a capital S.
Does he have autocorrect on? Yeah, I think one of the reasons that I feel more compelled by this is that from doing a bunch of reading around this, it seems like lots of old and disparate cultures and traditions have essentially arrived at the same insight.
They're all basically saying the same stuff.
Of like, there is this thing outside of the mind. There is man's primordial nature. The spirit, the soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. There is like your true self that is not your thoughts or your body, and like that sort of inward journey to like the center. All this kind of stuff, which sounds so like completely like hippie. It's like, dude, save this for like go back to the mountains, dude.
Save this for Burning Man.
Yeah, save this for Burning Man kind of vibes. Yeah, I just I feel quite compelled by it.
I'm kind of approaching it from different angles. So like I find that there are moments where I kind of come close to understanding, I think, what they're trying to get at. And then I snap back into so I started doing Sam Harris's Waking Up Meditation 30-day course about 60 days ago.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm on day 10. Nice. But it's like each day there's like a guided meditation on the app. And then there's also a little bit of theory.
Okay.
I also listened to the Waking Up audiobook. And then when I chatted to a friend, Dan Morisoto, who runs a company called Heights that I invested in, he was big on the whole spirituality stuff and recommended Eckhart Tolle. And then another friend recommended Kapil Gupta. And I saw a podcast where Naval was talking to Kapil.
Oh, really?
I say this as if I'm on first name terms with them. I apologize.
To be fair, Kapil has tweeted you, so.
Yeah, oh, true, yeah. And then I thought, you know what, let's explore what this is about.
Yeah.
Oh, because in the podcast, they were basically saying, it was a bit controversial. They were like, people say it's all about the journey, but actually it's about the destination because, the destination is what makes the journey meaningful. And I was like, I'm not sure I agree with this, but these guys know some stuff. And so let me read this guy's book.
Yeah, I think with stuff like that, journey, destination, I think like it all sounds like wordplay until like you've reached like a pretty deep level and then you're like, oh, that's what they mean about journey and destination. Like it all just sounds like wordplay to me,
quite.
Like.
One of the exercises in Kapil's Atma Moon book is interesting. And I wonder if it didn't... I think it came close to resonating with me. Okay, your manufactured self. When you look into the mirror, it shows you an image of the person you have habitually come to regard as yourself. Because you believe this to be yourself, you have spent your entire life attempting to adorn him, fortify him, protect him, and guide him.
Mate.
If someone says anything against this person, you retaliate.
Mate.
If someone tries to harm this person, you rush to protect him. If he is hungry, you feed him. If he is tired, you allow him to rest. His every little wish is your command. His mundane desires, his need for approval, his hope for success, these are all your life's work. You work incessantly for him, and you never question it, and you never question it. Even the thought of questioning it puzzles you. It may cause you all sorts of hardship, but you won't have it any other way. The survival and the well-being of this person is in the mirror represents the full sum of your life. Imagine that I came to you and said, I would take care of this person in the mirror for you. Imagine that I gave you a week's rest. For one full week, I would take care of his needs and attend to all his concerns. From his disappointments about his career to his hope for becoming a success. From his conflict in his family life to his desire for happiness. His hunger, his sleep, his thirst, his sense of peace, you would be free of it all for 1 week. What would that week be like? There would be no worry. There would be no one to worry about. There would be no hope, as there would be no one to hope for. There would be no boss to impress, or family member to apologize to. What would you do with your time? How would you spend the day? I want you to go there now within yourself. Fear not, I will not give you the luxury of 1 week, for man has learned to shun such guilty pleasures. I will only give you a few minutes. For the next few minutes, this person in the mirror is not your concern. Just for a few minutes. Whether he lives or dies, is tired or hungry, is hopeful or depressed, is not your concern. For the next few minutes, this person in the mirror has no caretaker. His caretaker is taking a break. Put this book down and do this now. Please do it.
Wow. Mate, I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like you're at a point where a lot of the stuff would like really vibe with you.
Yeah, it really vibes with me. Yeah.
I think I'm not quite at the point. Like I can sort of feel that I'm not yet at the point where this stuff is vibing with me, because I'm like, I don't know, like part of me feels like I'm already fairly low anxiety, and therefore I tend not to have that much mental chatter. And if I do have mental chatter, it tends to be just having a song playing in my head or things like that.
Okay.
But what was it? There was yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm just enlightened already.
Hallmark of the enlightened.
Exactly. Yeah. There's been a lot of stuff in Capital and in The Power of Now that talks around the idea of like hope being like a bad thing, and like the pursuit of happiness being like a bad thing. And I guess what they're all trying to get to is just this idea that the present moment is all there is, and any living in the past or living in the future is just, you know, shafting yourself. Yeah, again, it's hard to describe it, but I think as I'm kind of reading the stuff lying in bed at night,
yeah,
I occasionally come close to sort of feeling like there's the sort of grasping the magnitude of this, but not quite yet.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, to be honest, I do sometimes feel like I do feel compelled by it, but I'm also sometimes worried about like, am I just like trying to LARP, you know? LARP means like live action role play. Yeah, I guess it's a bit like sort of imposter syndrome of like, is this actually making sense to me, or is it just like a nice idea that I want to go along with because it's like cool and edgy or something, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't think it's quite to that extent. But
with all this kind of stuff, at least for me, it starts to make more sense when I can put it in concrete terms, in terms of like a specific problem that I'm dealing with or an issue that I'm having. One of the things that Capel talks about is kind of man's obsession with his station in life and how we keep on striving for this, that, and the other. And one of his like conclusions, if I can butcher it, is like to actually just not care about things broadly. And I think for me, that specific thing is currently and has been for a while the what do I do with my career thing.
Yeah.
Where the kind of monkey brain part of me feels the need to strive for more stuff.
Yeah.
And then I read this sort of stuff where I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can I actually just opt out of this striving game? Yep. And can I just be content to just like do whatever I want? And what Capel says is his whole thing is like, you know, a master craftsman improving his craft for its own sake is the ultimate the ultimate state of being. But you know, doing that for anything other than that intrinsic reason, I guess, is kind of self-sabotaging and ultimately leads to pain and resentment and all the bad things. I think, I don't know.
Something like that. And
then I read the stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I could just opt out. And then I, for like a second, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
And then I sort of come like snapping back to the thinking about the future stuff. I don't know. It's really hard to talk about stuff in like
It really is, yeah.
like a coherent way.
Yeah, for sure.
Apparently the power of now is just like I've like changed millions of lives all around the world and things where people are like, oh my God, incredible.
Really?
But equally, like there's, Time magazine said it was like just like a load of BS in their review, which he actually mentions in the sort of preface at the start.
Yeah.
That, the book will speak to people at different times.
Yeah.
And some may not be ready for it. Like one interesting thing is that on my new deep dive podcast, I think in 1 or 2 episodes, we've talked about spirituality and stuff. And then we did like a mid-season survey, and discussions about spirituality was rated by far the lowest thing that people appreciated about it.
Yeah.
And the highest one was self-improvement, practical tips that can apply to my career.
Yeah. Practical trips to strive towards.
Exactly.
Love it.
And like the 10th, number 10 on the list was spirituality, and number 9 on the list was relationships.
Really?
And all the other stuff. Yeah, no, I sort of thought so too. But I think there's a lot of, and this kind of makes sense. I wonder if there is this. You start off in life kind of striving for worldly success. Once you've become somewhat conscious when you're in school, when you're like a certain sort of person, and when you're the sort of person that listens to a podcast that delves into the minds of entrepreneurs and stuff, then you're obviously going to be the sort of person doing that, striving for worldly success, as am I.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it seems like a lot of people have a bit of this like, oh shit, maybe this like striving for worldly success isn't maybe that's not the point
of it all. Yeah.
And then go on this like meditation, yoga, spirituality path. Yeah. Some people approach it through religion. Some people approach it through, I don't know, Sam Harris.
Right.
It's very hard to talk someone into becoming interested in this sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think it's hard to talk about because the language just sounds so like mumbo jumbo. I mean, even just saying like the word spirit or something, it sounds very archaic. It sounds very archaic, And I think like most people, I think, there's this sort of part of modernity is this sort of, assumption of, I guess, what some would call like naturalism or materialism or something, that like there's nothing outside of the physical world, basically. And I think some people think that way. I think a lot of, I'm starting to sense a lot of vibes of like dissatisfaction. Yeah, I think a lot of the sort of dissatisfaction that people have with modernity comes from like the ignorance of this other sort of thing, this other direction, the inward direction rather than the the upward direction or whatever you want to call it.
There was a good tweet that I think speaks to what you're speaking about. Someone tweeted, and I guess you might have seen this because this went semi-viral among like tech Twitter. So someone random tweeted something like, you know what? I'm just going to find the tweet.
I feel like I have some tweets saved up on this topic.
All right. This is a guy called Liam. Hot take. The easiest way to put yourself behind in life is going traveling for months on end in your early 20s to find yourself. It's an absolute success killer and puts you behind the majority.
Oh, I saw this.
Why waste the key years of your life meant for building and getting ahead?
I think this is bait. I read that and I thought, I'm not going to give this even a moment's thought because this is just so obviously bait. This guy has like... This guy's on sub 10k followers. He knows exactly what response that would get. Yeah, I didn't buy that tweet for a second. I think he's...
Anyway. And then there are lots of kind of people dunking on that. Basically. And being like, why waste the years of your life meant for building and getting ahead?
Yeah, I mean, just so much about that framing I found problematic. But yeah, I thought it was bait and I didn't really...
Here's a reply to it. The idea of falling behind in your 20s is a myth held by people who don't realize how young they are. You're only falling behind if you're failing to grow. Your soul is smarter than you. You need to listen to it to get what you really want out of life.
It all sounds like such just bollocks, mate, doesn't it?
What, like the soul stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
It's so hard. Okay, I can't find... I've definitely like... saved up a bunch of tweets about this stuff. I guess not in my bookmarks, and it's very hard to search through likes. Mate, the day Twitter builds a search feature for one's likes, that's the day my fifth brain will finally be released into the world, mate. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not looking forward to that feature because I often like polite like tweets that I get mentioned in.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so now my Twitter likes are not actually a good representation of stuff that I want to save. I thought Readwise was going to be it, but the friction of like saving something to Readwise is still too much.
Yeah, I don't really save tweets to Readwise. I mean, Readwise is amazing for like Kindle highlights, other highlights, but I don't save tweets to Readwise.
Yeah, because you can just DM the Readwise account with like T, and it will save the whole thread.
Yeah.
And so
I see
I've done that a few
doing
times.
like Readwise save thread. Like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, why are they doing it publicly? Well, just DM the Readwise account. It'll do it. On that note, one of the challenges we've set for our team is can we get me to climb up the Readwise saved threads leaderboard?
Oh yeah.
When we started, we were like 74. I think we've now like ascended about 30 or 40 places in the last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. So what are you now? Like 20 something?
I haven't checked in a while, but
well, what's your big thread? Oh, is it just about number of Readwise?
Yeah, it's like, total number of there's like that leaderboard.
It's not like the maximum you've ever had saved on the thread or something.
No, it's like total number. So like people like David Perel and Naval and Dickie Bush from Ship 30 for 30 and stuff are at the
thread bros.
Yeah. I want to become a thread bro.
Nice. Let me see if I can.
Because I see the worldly success of the Readwise leaderboard of all things.
Quickly we've gone. We're talking about that to like, oh, you're trying to get up the Readwise leaderboard for safe thread.
I love it.
Give me a sec. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of reading about sort of Islam and religion and stuff like that, and it's very much centered around conquering the self and the ego, that being the path up the mountain. Let me see if I can find any good highlights.
I have a question. Like, go to the highlights. What goes on in your mind when you're like being idle? Do you like have a voice that's talking to yourself, or like?
Okay, here's one thing I've started doing. I've started noticing that when I'm idle, I just like obviously I'm consciously thinking about it, but like without really thinking about it, I decide I'm going to put on some Spotify. I'm going to like listen to a podcast or something. And I think, wait, what the hell am I doing? I'm not going to put on some Spotify right now. Why would I do that? You know, like why am I feeling the need to jump to that? Okay, so I think there's a few things that are probably going on. I think part of what's going on is this, the same phenomenon that goes on when I think it's better to make myself a coffee instead of have water, because like coffee is more valuable somehow because there's like more matter in there or something, And in the same way, I think like, well, I mean, if I'm not, it would be a waste not to listen to something right now. Like I'll put on some music or whatever, I think there's just like something really weird about that. Yeah, I think part of it is that it feels like I feel like I would be doing something, it's the whole like productivity mind virus in a subtle way, I think, So that's part of the.
And if you can listen to something and consume stuff that is better than the alternative.
yeah, something to that effect. And I think this is probably more on a semi subconscious level. Like obviously it's not completely subconscious. I wouldn't be talking about it. I do feel like part of what's going on there is like some kind of escapism where I want to sort of. I just want to. I mean, again, it sounds like really cliche, and like so many people are saying this nowadays. And when. The whole thing of like, oh man, millennials, they can't just sit with their thoughts for like a minute nowadays, all this kind of stuff. But I think it's basically it. That's spot on. I think I'm just trying to like escape from something, Maybe not, escape is a bit dramatic. Like, I think it's partly I want to be able to feel like I'm doing something. And on some level, I'm like running away from something, I think.
Okay. So what goes on your mind in your mind when you're not?
And then I don't do that. And like, so for example, actually today it's at Stansted. Yeah, I think I was walking to the train or something, and then I had one of these moments, and I like almost went to listen to music, and I was like, no, why would I do that? And then I didn't. To be honest, there wasn't too much going on. I was just like vibing with the environment rather than like escaping. Again, it just sounds kind of stupid. Yeah, I just think there's some perverse thing around like some feeling of action or a feeling of doing something or feeling, something like that. I think there's something perverse around that. And then I think to some extent I'm running away from something. I don't know. I'll keep noticing it. I've really started noticing it over the past few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
Wait, what's the question?
Like, what's your chatter? Like, do you find yourself wanting to turn on Spotify for no real reason? Because like, it's not like I'm going to be appreciating the music, right? Like, if there are times when I'm like seriously just like want to like listen to some music, like really getting into it, like really just vibing to that, and that's probably like 2% of the time that I have Spotify on.
So I know,
and the rest of the time is just pointless.
Okay, so I never listen to Spotify.
Okay, I guess you're always listening to podcasts, audiobooks.
But that's so. And I do also have this thought process of like, do I want to listen to something right now? And usually the answer is yes, I'm engrossed in this audiobook I'm listening to currently, The Evolution of Desire by David Buss.
Oh yeah,
which is all about like mating preferences and how attraction and stuff has evolved over the generations and things, which is really interesting. And so last couple of days, as I started listening to this, I have been finding more moments in the day, like taking out the trash, for example. Might as well put the AirPods in and play the audiobook.
Yeah.
But I think that's quite goal directed in that, like,
I think that's quite present. Like, yeah, definitely. If I'm like really into an audiobook or a podcast, or like a talk or something, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get back to that. Like, that's a great feeling. I'm like present. I'm like engaged.
Yeah, I don't think I seek this stuff out as a escape.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess for me, the mental chatter, like, usually there is some sort of song playing in my head, which occupies some percentage of my brain, and then there is just like random thoughts about random stuff.
Okay, no. So what are the random thoughts about random stuff?
So
like thinking about stuff that happened that day, stuff you're about to do, just like planning your day.
Okay, so one that I've noticed actually is actually a lot of time for the last couple of weeks. There've been a few times while I've been having a shower where I have kind of forgotten whether I've put on the shower gel or not.
Oh, okay.
And been like, oh, yeah. I actually can't remember if I did this, so let's just do it again. And I realized that one of the thoughts that I've had has been a sort of kind of doomsday scenario, sort of projecting into the future about me potentially getting cancelled and all the different ways I might get cancelled. Really? And all the different things that people in my life might kind of say that would lead to me getting cancelled. And then I kind of think about this for a minute or two.
And you're
then
just like completely zoned out.
And then I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing? Like,
yeah.
This is just dumb. And then I stop, and then I choose to stop thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think, it's kind of interesting that I was thinking about that. That's a bit weird.
Whoa, when did this start happening?
I noticed it probably about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Do you think it's been going on longer?
No. Like this, like I have so few kind of fears, anxieties and stuff about the future.
Yeah.
That when I do notice something, I'm like, oh, that's like unusually. Yeah. That's kind of unusual for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I often think about work stuff, like planning a video in my head or something like that. Or
why do you think the cancellation fears have started creeping in?
I think partly it's because like everything in life is going so well right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That if I imagine, I feel like it's got to come crumbling down at some point.
Okay. Yeah.
And that seems to be a pretty, one of the higher probability things.
Okay. Sure.
In this sort of industry.
Yeah.
For example. Yeah, I suspect that's what's going on. Here's my theory. We all have a different baseline level of anxiety. Anxiety meaning fears about the future that may or may not be valid.
Yeah.
And we need to fill it with something somehow.
Is that your theory?
And so even when when life is going quote badly, then it's easy enough to fill that with stuff. But even when life is going well, I think
you have a vessel to fill.
You have a vessel to fill, and that vessel needs to be then filled with the proverbial first world problems. And so if I think about 3 months ago where kind of YouTube channel wasn't going well, then the stuff I'd be thinking about was YouTube channel is not going well. How do we make it better? Et cetera.
Yeah.
Now that YouTube channel is going well and we've got things sorted, then now it's like, okay, what are the tail risks that are going to potentially show off this? Like, I don't know.
Interesting.
And I've got a couple of friends who I would rate as being more anxious than I am.
Yeah.
And some of them seem to also have
worrying about future potential bad things.
Yeah. Almost they almost have to be worried about something or another.
Okay.
And I think, for me, I probably do have to be worried about something or another just to occupy the mind some of the time.
Interesting.
Have you had that at all?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I do much. I think the term is catastrophizing for this kind of... I don't think I do too much catastrophizing. I think I have much more, the times when I'm anxious is much more specific anxiety around like, oh man, I need to do that thing that I haven't done yet. Or like, it's usually specific stuff. I don't really...
It's not like generalized.
No, I don't think I have any generalized sense of that. It's usually kind of specific. But I think what you might be saying, we're going for an hour. It feels a bit like a cop-out because it's a way for you to like absolve like responsibility in a sense. Because you're kind of saying like, okay, this bad thing, I'm doing this like catastrophizing. But actually, there's just like this, everyone has a baseline level of anxiety. It's got to be filled with something. And so I'm just feeling with that. It's meaningless. It's meaningless. I just, my brain just has to think something. Okay, that's not what you're saying.
No.
Okay.
My theory is sort of separate to the thing that I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm not saying that this is a natural thing and therefore it is good.
No, I'm not. I know you're not saying it's good, but I think your theory seems to suggest that like it's arbitrary. I think your theory seems to suggest, well, the vessel needs to be filled. My mom's got to make up some stuff.
I mean, of course, it's not going to be arbitrary.
Okay.
Like I'm not, the sorts of stuff that I would worry about are specific to my life context.
Yeah, not arbitrary in that sense, but arbitrary in the sense of like, I mean, the vibe I got was that like your theory would be kind of detaching you from this thing. It's like, oh, I've just got to
worry about something.
Yeah, I've just got to worry about something, and this is just something to worry about, rather than being like, why am I worried about that?
Yeah, I think internally I do think, why am I worried about that? It's just, I'll tell you off the record.
Okay, nice. Have you done something recently? What did you tweet 3 weeks ago?
The books that I've been reading.
How long did that tweet go undeleted before you got rid of it, mate? How many screenshots would exactly.
Is there a way for people to surface tweets that have been deleted? Is there some kind of web archive?
Oh, mate, the people may have heard that there's a new Twitter CEO in town. And I think as soon as he became CEO, it looks like a bunch of people went on some crusade to like dig up his whole tweets and find problematic stuff. And there was some stuff in there. I just thought it was kind of funny. I think we should chat more about the spirituality stuff. I'm doing a bunch of reading right. It's hard to like coherently put stuff down. I think I'm just gonna keep going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, go for it.
Until I feel like I can synthesize things. Maybe we can read out. We haven't read out a review in a while. I don't think I've read any reviews in a while. I can't remember how to even read reviews.
I don't know if we have listeners anymore.
This is an interesting one. This is a 5-star review entitled "The Final Taboo." Ali and Theba have talked about almost everything there is to talk about, with Ali especially priding himself on transparency and being open and vulnerable. Yet somehow there has not yet been a podcast episode on the subject of your religious beliefs and where you and Theba stand on Islam. You've limited yourselves to barely touching on the subject and fearful mentions of the word Muslim, pray, and faith. You are doing everyone a disservice by not giving this matter a proper fleshing out. Otherwise, awesome podcast.
Oh,
it's pretty interesting.
I'm happy to talk about it.
I'd like to talk about it. I just feel like I need to be in a position where I have like thoughts that I can explain about it. Because it's kind of like the spirituality stuff, right? Like where if you haven't sat down and tried to synthesize things in a way that you can explain to other people who aren't kind of coming from the same place, it's actually quite hard to do that, and quite hard to have like a coherent discussion about things. I think definitely over the next, I think I'd say in the next few months, we should definitely dig deeper on that.
Sure, I'm down.
I'm 100% down.
All right. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.